Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. Oh my God, I said channel. I'm still thinking about YouTube, I guess. No, so I, yes, let's just start over. Hi, hello, welcome back to my podcast. Now, what was I talking about? Brand new episode, episode three, episode two, technically. Two, technically, I have three, depending on where you find this. On Spotify, I think it has all of them. And I'm gonna make like a card site to act as an archive, so that'll have episode zero on it. But anyway, yeah, I took like a bit of I took a week off because I meant to have this episode done last week, and then shit happened, and I'm kind of burnt out. I'm still pretty burnt out, honestly. um, but yeah, this is this is going up tomorrow, I swear, which will be Tuesday, which is today when you're listening to this, hopefully. So yeah, let me go over all of the things that I um yeah, watched and stuff during our time apart. Yeah, like I would have released one the 1st of October. Now it's the 7th technically when I'm recording. It's coming out tomorrow on the 8th. But yeah. Anyway, so last off last time I left off on talking about How to Die Alone. Uh a short series on Hulu. I didn't realize that it was a part of the Onyx collection or collective that now Disney, because Disney owns Hulu, but that doesn't mean that you have access to Disney Plus. No, 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 no. You have to get that separately or do a package deal, which is what Discovery and HBO Max should have done instead of combining everything and having one giant platform. It's like, no, I don't want to watch 90 Day Fiance if I'm not being forced to, right? Because yeah, when I had roommates, they would play it, and I would be like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're watching this." And I'm like, I don't want to see people being miserable, unless it's, I don't know. It depends, because some of that was pretty wild. But I don't actively seek to watch those things. Like I'm kind of watching Golden Bachelorette right now on Hulu. I'm like, wow, I'm just promoting Hulu right now. um, with some friends, and that's been kind of interesting. 'Cause I'm like, oh, older woman, all these older guys, this is like really cute, and a lot of them are dating after losing a spouse, um, and have lost a spouse for like years. Even the Golden Bachelorette, her spouse died like 3 years ago or something, and she was technically on the Golden Bachelor, which came out last year, but she had to leave that early um because her daughter was having a difficult pregnancy, I believe was what they were saying. And I guess she might have been a fan favorite or something, so they were like, we're gonna give you your own show so you can find love and everything. I'm like, that's really cute. All of it's adorable. We still need to have like a gay version of this. I mean, of course, like VH1 and stuff had their own spin-offs of this sort of one person dating 20 other people all at once. And I even mentioned to my friends the classic Tila Tequila and how she was bisexual. And so they had like 20 men, 20 women, and everybody's just fucking. Basically, she can take her pick from anyone, all flavors. But yeah, I don't even see, like, literally what was I talking about? Oh, so Disney owns Hulu now, so Disney technically decided to create the Onyx Collective, which is a essentially it's a collection of projects from creators of color and other underrepresented groups. I'm like, oh, okay, so you're actively trying to have diverse media on your platforms. Like, that's cool. So, yeah. Oh, I forget that Freeform is now what used to be ABC Family. Like, that's just so weird to me. I'm like, why Freeform? Anyway, let's go over this episodes. So I think because it's a part of this collective and it's not actually airing on a station, not that I could find at least. If it is airing anywhere, I will, I'll correct that in the next episode. But essentially, my assumption is it's not airing on an actual station, and that's why they're able to release 2 episodes at a time. So there's 8 episodes in total. It only really played for 4 weeks because of that. So the show is over. And let's see. So episode 5 is Mel. That's the name of the character. Natasha Rothwell's character. I don't remember if I mentioned that last episode. But basically, Mel, it's Thanksgiving. It's the Thanksgiving episode, and I'm like, oh, okay, you just put all the kind of holidays as fast as you could in all of this. But yeah, Mel is doing the high flyer program, and you know she's gonna become a manager essentially, and she's trying to show to her family that she's got her shit together. Finally, like she's 35, she's gonna be a manager. I mean, that near death experience, I was like, wow, her brother didn't really give a shit about her. Her mom doesn't really care about her either. It's kind of I'm like, her family life is brutal. But yeah, so she goes over to her brother's house and oh yeah, there's this whole thing where she stole his identity to be a co-signer for her 30K hospital bill, which is insane. I'm like, what the fuck? Jesus. And they cracked her rib. I'm like, you gotta get people to sign for that or else she could sue you. I don't know if she knows about that lawsuit she can have. But anyway, so she essentially uses her brother's social security number in order to have a cosigner without his approval, of course. And he finds out about this and is upset with her. But on her end, because she's trying to put herself out there more and get over her ex who's getting married, and she's gonna fly to Maui to go to his wedding. While she's on her apps, she finds her fucking married brother on the apps. And so she decides to essentially catfish him, which is very weird, very strange. Thankfully, no nudes or anything, no dick pics were sent because, ooh, that would be very traumatizing. But she's like actively texting him as she's getting to his house, as she's in his house, and just can't believe that he's like blatantly like he'll be talking to his wife and then texting her, but her as the catfish, which I think is it's pretty fucked. And he has children, like he even the previous episode we do see him on a date with a black woman. His wife is white, and we kind of later on, like Mel and her brother do kind of reconcile later on in the episode, and he mentioned how like it does feel weird to sort of be in a interracial relationship and not feel as strong of a connection culturally to his partner as he would if he was dating someone who's black. And of course, Mel's like, you could talk to me about this. You don't have to go on these dates. And then, he tells her like, no, you and mom are my dependents. I don't feel like I can be this level of vulnerable with you. And that's why he's doing what he's doing, because he just doesn't feel like he has like an outlet for all of this. I'm like, yeah, he knows what he's doing is shitty, but at least, so far he's only gone on dates. I don't think he's like slept with anyone else or anything like that. And I'm like, well, you're kind of pushing it, but anyway, so yeah, the episode ends with like them having a better understanding of each other's situations and like actually trying to have each other's backs and stuff. And I was like, oh, well, that's cute. And I'm like, you know what? Hearing him talk, be vulnerable in this way, I'm like, okay, I see you less of as less of an asshole now. And then the next episode is Mel's graduation from High Flyers, and we find out. I mean, we kind of knew that Terrence, one of her coworkers, definitely was down bad for her, but he didn't realize it not until he was dating someone else. It was like, oh, I would never share my food with anyone, and that person tried to take some of his chips, and he just didn't let that happen. But then when Mel took some of his chips, he was just like, yeah, sure, you can have whatever you want. And he was like, wait a minute. Oh, I'm gonna be really upset if this audio is not audioing. Oh, can you hear my boy in the background? I can hear my boy. I don't know if you can. So yeah, he realizes that he has feelings for her, and I'm like, yes, because yes, you do. And she's attractive, you're attractive. Y'all will be cute. Um, but then what happens is like Mel gets stuck in this elevator with Patty, which is this white woman who Mel doesn't like they don't like each other at all. And this kind of gives them an opportunity to, I don't know, like sort of gain an understanding of each other. Like there's definitely a reason that Patty doesn't like Mel, and it's because she feels like Mel essentially slept her way up to the position she's in because she was sleeping with and dating her manager, their manager, really. And he recommended the High Flyers program over Patty, and Mel went for it. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, I could see why you don't like Mel because, yeah, that's pretty fucked. I would also be upset, actually. Um, but yeah, I'm like, what else happens? And then Patty's talking about like some guy she's trying to get to fall in love with her or something, or I don't really remember. I did watch this a bit ago. The next episode is Mel realizing that she's still in love with Alex. I mean, she did realize that, but and she wants to try to win him back. I'm like, oh girl, that's why would you and her friends, her new friends, her newfound friends, are like, okay, don't ruin his wedding, but you could try to catch him before he flies over for his wedding, right? Like don't do one of those things like in movies where the couple's about to get married and the pastor is like, and does anyone object or whatever? Like don't do that because yeah, I mean the friend made a good point. It's like you're not only ruining this opportunity, this occasion for the couple, you're also ruining every single family member that flew out to Maui to be there. You're ruining their mothers, their grandmothers, if they're still alive, and like their aunties, their uncles, and all this stuff, and they're gonna all look at you with disdain. Like, don't do that. I'm like, yeah, that's a great point because oh my god, the way all of those people would hate her all at once, plus the bride who she met. But anyway, so she ends up finding Alex. She thought she missed him, but he ended up not getting on his flight because he's getting cold feet. And I was like, oh shit, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And they end up, my boy, I know it's hot. I love you too. They just end up hanging out and having a great time, honestly. Like he encourages her. they have fun and everything like that. And it's like cute, but I'm also like, y'all could just stay like this platonically as friends, but if one of y'all got feelings, then it's pretty fucked. And so, of course, she does admit to him that she regrets not holding on to him and saying that he loves her and everything. Oh, saying that she loves him and everything like that. I mean, they were dating for like 3 months. So bringing out love in that short period of time is a little. But he did say it to her in that small period of time, so I get it. And they are coworkers, so I'm like, okay, there's probably some level of like y'all worked together for however long and then dated. But yeah, no, so he's just like kind of taken aback because he's like, whoa, we were just hanging out. This wasn't, and then he kind of just leaves and catches his flight. And she's just like, oh shit, I fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, girl, you did, but you gotta live with it. Like you let it out there. Oh, my other boy. And yeah, so the final episode, she's like, I got these flights, but I literally do not want to go there. Like, I'm not going there. Like, no, we can't go to this wedding. So she ends up going to Chicago, I think a few other places. And she does use the credit card of the dead woman who was next to her in the very beginning. And she actually makes it all the way out to a restaurant that she recommended. And she does bring up how she meets the restaurant owner, and it turns out that this woman had encouraged him to even open the restaurant, and he did know her. He just didn't realize she passed away. I mean, she didn't have like a next of kin or anything like that. So, that kind of news wouldn't really get out to people, especially because she died in New York and she was and Mel was in Chicago. But she's having all this. Oh, that's what it was. She went to Charlotte first, and then she went to North Carolina. And I don't, Charlotte's in North Carolina. She went to Charlotte, North Carolina, to go to a place that Terrence had recommended, and like, yeah, you better follow that because that man is in love with you, and he's gonna encourage you. He's emotionally available, okay? Like that's what we want. You want to go for someone who is emotionally available and ready to be with you now, not what you envision for later or in the past. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, she goes to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then she goes to Chicago. I feel like there's a third thing, but either way, she makes it back home. I thought she was gonna go to Maui, but she doesn't. I thought she was gonna still end up being there, but whatever. And I forgot in the last episode, it was super cute because Terrence had gathered all of these people to get her ready to go on her first flight ever. Because even though she's worked at an airport for however long, she's never actually flown herself, and she's afraid of flying too. And I'm like, Terrence is so cute, such a good guy, and she gets all these people he gets all of these people in order to support her in this plane simulation that pilots take when they're training to get her ready to go through turbulence and all this stuff. And I'm like, that is so sweet. And all these people that love and care about her. I'm like, yes, Mel, you do have people that care about you in your life. Come on. And yeah, and then she's sitting next to this older black couple, and they fly all the time. They have it figured out. She's the window, he's the aisle, and they let Jesus sit in the middle. The Holy Spirit, I think, sit in the middle. That was so funny. Anyway, everything looks good. She's having a great time. She makes it back to JFK. She sees Terrence. Terrence is ready to welcome her back. And then all of a sudden, she gets tackled to the ground by the police. And, I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck's going on? They're arresting her for fraud because she used that dead woman's credit card. And I was like, ah, shit. So they really just had her actions, have consequences. I mean, she did sue the fake IKEA company, and they were sending her a check for however much. It was either like 15K or something. And she also accidentally outed her brother for cheating in front of his wife because he decided to have their conversation on speaker and she didn't know that. And I was like, oh, fuck. So you're fucked. So I was like, oh, okay. So literally all of these plot points were getting the consequences at the end of the episode, at the end of the season. I'm like, God damn, that was some really good writing. And I'm like, usually people write stuff and the main character can just do no wrong, even though they are doing wrong for sure. So this feels very realistic. And yeah, no, I'm excited for that. And then, of course, I started this sort of detective show called High Potential, another thing on Hulu. Wow, I do actually watch Hulu minus the Disney part is definitely a app that I would probably continue to have because it is supposed to be essentially like having TV, but as streaming because it does have all the like channels. It's ABC, it's FX. Why are you fighting behind me? Jesus Christ. Um, that kind of stuff. And then there's movies and everything on there too. So it's like pretty good. I don't really watch Netflix like that, but I will talk about something that I was watching on Netflix later. But anyway, so the show is called High Potential. It's called High Potential. And it stars Caitlin Olsen, Julie, Jesus, Judy Reyes, which I recognize her, of course, as Carla from Scrubs. Same with Caitlin Olsen. That's literally Dee from It's Always Sunny. But she's doing a great job. Like, I do love her. And yeah, what am I saying? Like those are the two, at least to me, notable people. I know these people have done other stuff, of course, but that's what I want to say about it. Anyway, so because I'm trying to do this every 2 weeks or whatever, so I was able to watch 2 episodes between that time, between my last episode of the pod and now because the new episodes air on Tuesday, so I can't like talk about the third episode right now. But yeah, so the plot. I was like, what am I trying to say? What am I talking about? So the plot, basically it's about a single mom with an exceptional mind who gets recruited to the LAPD Major Crimes Unit. So has she has 3 children. She works as a janitor. We see her like sort of working as a janitor at the like LAPD headquarters. She like spills these like case files or whatever. And then she, instead of putting it back how it was, she rearranges everything. And um what is it? I was gonna call her Carla. I'm like, no, let's use her real name. Judy, which her name in the show is Selena, so I'm gonna call her Selena from now. Selena, she trying to remember. I think she is wow, she's 5'3". um gosh, she's like a higher up cop person, and I can't remember what that's called right now. Anyway, so she wants to hear the justification for why this cleaning lady decided to move around all of, these files and stuff. And also, she ended up marking off like suspect for someone and changed it to victim. And she's like, I need to know what this person's thinking. And to her, of course, she's like, obviously this person sees something that my detectives aren't seeing. So let's hear her opinion, especially because it's both a missing persons case with the missing person being the suspect for a murder case. So, they're running out of time because the person missing could also end up dead, essentially. But they're also not sure because they think the person missing killed her husband and then just ran away, essentially. So she explains, so they bring her in and then she explains that, like, her mind just works in a way where if she sees a mess, she has to fix it. So things weren't adding up to her when she saw all the clues and stuff. Because it seemed um, like from the photo, she could tell that the wife has like very immaculate taste. Like she has things in order. So why is the curtain in the background of this photo missing the curtain tie? It should be matching the other curtain on the other side. So, of course, the perpetrator, probably took this and used it to tie up somebody. But if we look at the dead husband, there's nothing indicating that he was tied up. Therefore, the missing person who y'all think is a suspect was the one that was tied up. So there's actually a different person who's a perpetrator. That was her whole reasoning. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. And then so they go to the crime scene because of course Selena's like, you know what? Take her. See what else she's gonna miss that my detectives, have missed. And she points out, like, yep, you can see that this is where she was taped. She's taken in like the flowers and all this stuff. And then they of course have to notify the next kin. So I believe the victim, the missing person, has a sister and a daughter. The daughter doesn't live in the county. She has to like kind of fly in. And the sister lives nearby. And I'm like, what happened? So we get a clue about some flowers that are in the house and how they decayed for some reason. But the flower should have been sent a few days prior because the daughter has a photo of the missing person with the flowers, and the flowers are like in full bloom. The sister's a little suspicious, and this politician's a little suspicious, or I guess rich guy. He wasn't necessarily a politician; he was just like shady rich guy. And they look at his records and find out that he was in like some bumfuck nowhere town just like a day or so ago. And I'm like, I'm trying to remember what happens. Essentially, of course, Caitlin Olsen, her character name is Morgan in the show. She's paired up with this detective who, I mean, it's not that he's macho. He's just a dude. He's doing that dude thing where he's like, ugh, why am I having to placate this lady? She doesn't know anything. I went to school. Like whatever. He just doesn't want to give her the time of day and thinks it's a waste of his time. um, and she shows just how it's not a waste of your time because she does end up figuring out where the missing person is, actually. So it ends up being that the sister and this other shady guy were having like a fair together, and they would meet up in this bumfuck nowhere place. And I forgot where the sister was found, actually. Again, I watched this like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, Morgan ends up solving the case and finding the missing person. And Selena is just like, you can come work for us. I'll give you a salary. This is it. And at first she does decline. And I'm like, well, of course she is, because of course. And we have to add a little bit of drama. And so we have this other stuff going on with like her kids and her one child who you can tell is of mixed um ethnicity. Like, like she obviously looks black to me. Well, she obviously looks black. And the daughter is talking about how she doesn't feel really like Morgan's child because she doesn't have her exceptional brain like the mom does, even though her little brother is also pretty similar. And her mom brings up how, oh, you got my stubbornness and you got your dad's artistic attributes. And the daughter truly believes that the dad walked out on them. And Morgan's trying to tell her, like, no, no, he would never do this. Like, seriously, he would never do this. And the daughter just doesn't want to believe that at all. So what ends up happening is Morgan goes back to Selena and she's like, I will do this if you up my pay, add in daycare, and find a missing person who's been missing for the last 15 years. And that is the end of that episode. Okay, so now with the second episode titled Dancers in the Dark, it starts off and I definitely think they were trying to play with like racial bias and whatnot, because you do see these two, like one character is black, the other one is like Hispanic, so two POC men drive up. They're sneaking around, they're doing stuff, and they're climbing, it's late at night and everything like that, and they climb up these steps and everything. And it's like, of course, they set it up to make it look like they're about to rob somebody or something. And then it turns out they're actually on top of this rooftop to record themselves tap dancing. And I'm like, oh, but that's so funny. They're they're doing some TikTok trend or whatever. And then all of a sudden, one of them drops and lands into the car that they drove up in, which is so fucked up. I was like, oh my god, they're just trying to do their little dances. And at this point, Morgan is more integrated into the police station. She's getting that money. And her ex partner, I'm not sure if they were married or not. So there is the dad of her oldest who's missing, and then there's the dad of her two other children. But I'm assuming they're separated, but he's still around. Honestly, it kind of feels more like he loves the children, but maybe doesn't want to be father. I'm not entirely sure. I'm hoping in the new episode. Oh well, more so I'm hoping that we get more information about him and who he is, because I am a little confused. But yeah, I mean, he essentially acts as a babysitter, but he's not like around like that. What was I saying? What? Anyway, so Morgan gets put on the case. The person who fell from the roof, he's in the hospital. And of course, she pieces together, oh, okay, so there were two people, the victim and the person the victim was with. And of course, the detective guy that she's partnered up with thinks like, oh, the person who is missing is probably the one who pushed him. And she's like, no, 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 I think there was a third person. And, they do figure that out. Like, okay, so you got the guy in the hospital. They eventually find out who was with the guy in the hospital, but they're still looking for the person who pushed him. And what she realizes is that at the same time as this like potential murder case, because the person in the hospital isn't dead yet, so it's not technically a murder case. At the same time in the background, there is this like robbery that keeps happening. There's these string of robberies that keep happening at jewelry stores. And she also helps them piece together like, oh, this person is using public transit because they don't have a getaway car anymore. And she realizes that, oh, the person who was on the roof with the victim was more than likely the person that is the suspect. She realized that the suspect meant to push the person that was with the victim and not the victim himself. But because of where the moon was situated in the sky, he could only see silhouettes. So he pushed the wrong person by mistake, because the person who didn't get pushed was the getaway car for the guy stealing jewels. And even though he was saying like, no, I've turned my life around, I don't want to do this anymore. The guy that was stealing was anxious that that guy would like rat him out essentially. So he was just gonna try to shut him up. And so the person, I forgot what the thing is called. So basically, instead of robbing, he joined this like community of like at risk young adults. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be teens. All these people look like they're in their 20s. And they work at this like automobile shop. They're all like a family there. The victim, the one that fell on the car, um, he also he loves to dance. So they kind of teamed up together and he was teaching the guy who was trying to make a better life for himself how to dance and everything like that and perform. So yeah, so that guy was just trying to move on with his life, but the dude that was a thief was like, I don't trust you to not rat me out. And so Morgan realizes that his life is still in danger. So, because she pieces together, oh shit, not only was the guy who wasn't the victim probably a part of these robberies, but he's also the true victim. So now they're like rushing to find him to protect him. And then it really sucks, but she ends up being too late to save him. And he ends up getting shot at this club. And this is like her first time being in this sort of situation of I was this close to saving someone, but shit happens and she couldn't and she was too late. And it was definitely a heartfelt moment because the detective that she's teamed up with, um, was actually trying to be vulnerable with her and support her. And I'm like, okay, good. I need him to calm the fuck down, first off. And then I need y'all to, come closer. And I get it. It's only the second episode. Their relationship is pretty rocky because he trusts her but he doesn't, and it's like a whole man thing. I mean, I feel like anyone would kind of feel that way now that I think about it, of like I spent this many years training to become this profession, and all of a sudden this person who's never done any of this is being treated better by my boss than I am, and just put on the payroll without doing any of my years of training and doesn't have any of my years of experience. Yeah, I mean, like that would kind of piss off anybody. So I get it. And she's white and she is not. So there's also that. I'm like, where is he from? I thought he's from Illinois. And he's like 52. Not he, his dad, well, his adopted dad was a police dispatcher. That's kind of wild. Okay, now I'm just distracted by his Wikipedia. But anyway, so that was kind of the second episode. They do catch the killer. Of course, they just unfortunately couldn't save the guy before he was killed. But on the flip side, the initial victim who fell on the car wakes up because he was in a coma, and he just has to go through like rehab in order to like get his senses back basically. And but they think he'll be able to like walk and dance again eventually. So I'm like, that's at least nice, a nice way to end this, because that would be really sad. And then the final part of the episode was Morgan getting an update from Selena, the police chief, which I think that's her position. I think it's called a police chief, about her missing partner. And she found out that the car that he was in the pound, and in the trunk of the car was a package of diapers. So he truly is missing. He didn't run away, because the last thing he was doing was going to the store to get diapers for the newly born eldest child. And the eldest child, the daughter, also overhears this and she starts crying. Morgan is crying too. But this is full confirmation that her dad did not leave them and he is actually legitimately missing. So yeah, I'm like, ooh, okay. That mystery is gonna unravel, which is I'm like, I love mystery so much. Ooh, I love mystery so much. It just scratches like a little itch as I scratch my head in my brain. That's just like, I gotta solve this. And then it's gotta be satisfying. Well, I mean, it doesn't. No, it does. Cause I'm like, kinda, ooh, okay. Actually, as an example, because I was also gonna talk about Perfect Couple, which I was watching with a friend. And then I was like, you know what? I'll just finish the rest of the series all on my own, which Netflix series about it's actually based on a novel. Can I get a synopsis, please? Okay. When a lavish wedding ends in disaster before it can even begin, with a body discovered just hours before the ceremony, everyone in the wedding party is a suspect. And I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. And I was down to watch it, but I didn't realize it was a series and all the episodes are like an hour. I'm like, y'all could have really, with how it ended, it really could have happened. Like, this could have been like maybe a 2 hour movie. I'm like, I'm taking this film class and I didn't realize how much I like to cut when I'm editing. I'm like, oh no, this is all unnecessary. Like, let's cut all of this. I can literally only imagine how much extra footage they have because what do you mean? There were like 8 episodes of this. I don't know. I mean, usually, because I used to be into true crime, but I stopped watching true crime because it was making me paranoid and like anxious. I was like, oh no, I can't do that. Even though stylistically, statistically, you are more likely to get murdered or like killed by murdered and killed is the same thing. You are more than likely to get hurt or killed by someone you know, and it's usually either like a crime of passion, like in the moment, or it's over money, essentially. So because of how the person's body was found, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this is. It doesn't seem like it's a crime of passion, like it could be, because she was found like on the on the beach. How you doing, buddy? Um, whatever. I didn't. I was just like, I'm over it. I didn't even understand why it's called The Perfect Couple because it's not like the couple. Spoilers. I mean, I should have said spoilers forever ago. But it's not like the couple planned out this murder or anything like that. I don't even like. I don't know. Oh, he has a toy. Let's go. Like, I don't even know why it's called this. Like, the couple isn't the reason for any of this. All right, buddy. Gotta play fetch with my cat. What did I say? But yeah, it's like the couple isn't even like they're interesting. It's like Nicole Kidman. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Which, oh my god, what was that other movie she was in recently on Netflix? Um, looking for it. I'm looking for it. Oh, A Family Affair. I'm like, of the clips that I saw of A Family Affair, I was like, does the camera person hate her? Does the camera person hate both of them, like her and Zac Efron? Because the angles in which they like framed both of them, I was like, they look so bad. And at least in A Perfect Couple, I was like, okay, she looks like a person again. You know, she's just wearing really bad wigs, but I don't blame the camera person. I blame the wardrobe or whatever, whoever does. Oh no, the hair and makeup people. I blame them. But yeah, no, I was like, she actually looks good here. I don't know why she looked really bad in A Family Affair, which it's definitely been the year of the MILF filming of the MILF movie. Even though it's really just a family affair and the idea of you with Anne Hathaway, which is so weird to call her a MILF, but she is an older woman in the movie with a daughter, and I'm like, okay, and with that Nicholas guy with awful tattoos, which also that movie wasn't a fanfic. The person who wrote it was inspired by Harry Styles fanfics, but he wasn't modeled after Harry Styles. Even though I'm like, yeah, it was supposed to be a generic boy band, which, because I'm like, it was written by an actress, but I can't remember her name. I think she was in Deliver Us from Eva, but can't remember. Robin Lee. There you go. And she was in Deliver Us from Eva. I'm correct. And it sucks too because she was talking about um trying to write romance novels and other books and how she felt like, or not even that she felt, her agent was telling her to change the protagonist from being black to white because white protagonists would sell more. And so she had a version of this, I think, or she had a different book that she was writing that she had to scrap because of that. And I'm like, that's really fucked up. I'm like, no, don't care about that shit. Just write what you want. The audience will find you. I mean, as long as you advertise it, you know, can't just random. What the hell are you doing? Huh, okay. I think I wanted to. I brought up this tab for "Marry My Husband," which is a K drama from this year. I guess I wanted to talk about it briefly. What's cool is that because I read a lot of webcomics, like so many webcomics, like so much. Like I have an account on Webtoons, Tapas, Tappy Toon, and also Reason. And I just read so much, and I use my adult money to pay for these things. And then if I am just super invested, I will definitely like find it on not the official sites and read ahead and then still pay for it. Like I'm like I hate that people are so against pirating, or I hate that corporations are so against pirating because most of the time people who pirate also turn around and buy the official stuff because it's like it's almost like sampling the product before actually getting it. Anyway, so I've noticed a lot of web comics, especially if the web comic is based in Korea, like it's being created in Korea, promoted everywhere else, eventually then getting turned into these live action adaptations. So Marry My Husband was definitely something that I was obsessed with and I read. It was like not necessarily a quick read, but I think there's only like 53 chapters. And it got made into a live action and it's on Amazon and I tried to watch it. But the character who is supposed to be the main lead, his hair is so bad. I can't take him seriously. And also, he behaves as though he knows what's going on. And the way in which his character behaves in the comic is like completely separate. I'm like, no, we as the audience aren't supposed to know that he knows what's going on. He's just supposed to act kind of himbo and also not good about like dating and making his feelings known. And he's kind of stoic. He's like a stoic guy, and his sister's supposed to help him with that. But I just fully couldn't watch the rest of it because his hair was so bad and he was kind of acting not as his character. But anyway, to get into the plot though, an ordinary woman who spends her days burdened by an incompetent husband, neglectful in-laws, and a hard work life, and becomes a cancer patient at a young age, resolves to escape her fate and enact her revenge by having her best friend marry her husband in a new timeline. So this is kind of like a oh nice. Honestly, sure wasn't sure what I was saying for a second there because I my food showed up. But anyway, I think I was saying it's kind of like a time travel situation. Although what she realizes is that things that happened in the past will happen again. But especially if it's something bad, especially if it's something bad that happens to her, she can transfer that sort of bad luck to someone else. So that's why it's called Marry My Husband, because she realizes that a lot of her strife and everything comes from like that relationship with her husband. And I mean, there's that description, but in the comic and in the movie, she's like dying of cancer and she can't afford to pay for hospital bills anymore. So she ends up going home. And then she ends up walking into her husband sleeping with her best friend, which is so, so shitty. And then they get into an argument, and then she falls and hits her head and she dies. And then, of course, she's sort of sent back in time And over time, you realize that her best friend really wasn't her best friend. Her best friend actually, like, really fucking hates her for some reason, which we, of course, later find out is because her best friend sees her and her family, the main character's family, as like the reasons in which all the bad things that's happened to the best friend have happened because it turns out that the main character's mom leaves, them, and she ends up cheating with the best friend's dad, who is also married. But of course, I don't think the main character ever even finds this out. We find out as an audience reading the webcomic. I don't know if this is brought up in the show. I do know, talking to somebody else about the show, because they watched the whole thing, that nobody dies in the show. And I'm like, oh, but those were, I mean, not to say that something was a satisfying death, but you were like, wow, finally some comeuppance, because the boyfriend is awful and he ends up dying. Again, spoilers, I guess. He ends up dying in the comic. So does his mom. But his mom ends up getting poisoned essentially by the best friend in the hospital. And then one of the best friend doesn't realize that someone's like there in the room with them and sees her do this. It's so fucked up. It's so, so fucked up. But essentially, what ends up happening is that um, the main character and the best friend have known each other since they were like children. The main character had a more or less happy life, even though single family home or blah, blah, blah. Not single family. Um, Even though it's just her and her dad and her mom left them, but her dad is like a super nice person. They get along well, so she's happy. And then on the flip side, her best friend, quote unquote, is also, it's just her and her mom, but her mom is like super, at least verbally abusive, like always yelling at her and stuff. So of course she grows up thinking it's not fair that they basically have the same life, but she's treated poorly by her parent and the main character isn't, yada yada, all this stuff. So in her mind, she's like, obviously, I've got to figure out a way to make her feel terrible and basically torture her through other people by basically spreading rumors, telling people through like sort of passive aggressively explaining stuff or not fully explaining things. And yeah, I mean, all these people were pretty gullible and, like the quote unquote best friend more because she acted like super innocent or whatever. And I mean, yeah, they were like kids, so it was just easier to for some reason believe her than just asking the best friend about I mean, the main character about what actually happened. Either way, the main character realizes that that's what she was doing this whole time, and she's like, "Well, I I would rather, since you want him so bad, marry him, and I'll give you my fate to deal with his mother-in-law. Well, honestly, his to deal with his parents who are awful and very demanding and don't want. I don't know. It's just awful. Either way, I like the comic. Didn't watch the show fully because the main characters, no, the male lead and the show's hair was just really, really bad. I really couldn't do it. And in the comic, and I'm assuming in the show, he also is someone who's sent back in time and knows what happened to her. And he actually shows up at her funeral in the comic and realizes, like, wow, I did actually have feelings with this person, and I should have done something differently. So it's like they kind of went back in time because of like regret and wishing things could happen differently, essentially. And somehow her dad, who passed away in the past, the main character's dad, who passed away, he was like a conduit for this time travel to happen. But anyway, on to my final topic. I did actually watch a movie. It was recommended to me by someone. It's called A Silent Voice. It's like came out in 2016, and it's like I remember when that came out, and people were saying it was really good, but like I was graduating from college, I was moving, all this stuff, and based on the like plot, I wasn't necessarily down to see it. It says it follows the story of a former bully turned social outcast who decides to reconnect and befriend the deaf girl he had bullied years prior. And I was like, do I want to watch? I think I only really remembered the bully part. I didn't remember and like seeing the bullying and stuff, but I don't remember him like becoming a social outcast or that being a part of the plot. And that definitely was interesting when watching it because he ends up, after being a social outcast for so long, because this, like him bullying her, happened when he was like in middle school or elementary school, actually. And we kind of time jump to him being in like high school, I think. And like he, yeah, so he ends up being like suicidal and actually ends up planning to kill himself after we jump forward to the present because we do get the past and like how he's bullying her. But the thing about him bullying her is that like it wasn't just him. He wasn't like the instigator. There was this other girl who just very much disliked her and would say some bullshit. And everyone else would be like, "Oh yeah, you're right," and then be like, "Well, let's just fucking mess with her or whatever." And like the main character who's the main guy, he would like take her hearing aids and like toss them and break them and stuff. And I was like, that shit's expensive, bro. Like expensive. And she ends up losing like four pairs and even though the deaf girl is talking about how or talks about how she gets bullied and stuff to I guess the principal or whatever. I think she initially says it's the one girl that instigated it, but no one wanted to fess up to what they did, and they all just turned on him, the main character, and said, "Oh, he was the only one to bully her." And of course, he's trying to say, like, no, no, I wasn't. Everybody else was bullying her too, but no one would speak up, which was so fucked up. Because it's like one thing if there really was just one person bullying her and no one was like trying to stop this person, but it's like, no, y'all all actively bullied her, said mean things to her, wrote stuff on her desk and like notebooks and stuff, like actively being pieces of shit to her. Um, but yeah, so after he's turned on, everybody after everyone turns on him, uh everybody just starts ignoring him and also bullying him. So even his like best friends who were part of the bullying start to bully him about it, like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, all this stuff. And it's like, huh? Y'all were together doing this. Y'all are crazy. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty sad actually, just to sort of see him older and still dealing with like thinking that people were talking about him behind his back. Um, not even able to like see people's faces anymore and just becoming a socially anxious person and not wanting to be friends with anyone or to befriend anyone. And yeah, the whole situation made him suicidal too, although he kind of gave up on killing himself. And then at some point, oh, right before he was going to, he changed his mind about killing himself, but he did run into her because he wanted to apologize to her in person before ending his life. And I think that interaction kind of made him be like, actually, maybe I should try to befriend her. And in the time since, he bullied her and all that stuff, and like now he's learned sign language so he can communicate with her too. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet of him and really wholesome. And what else happens? And slowly but surely, he kind of opens up with some of his classmates and actually does gain friends. But then the main girl that was the instigator in the past kind of pops up and she again tries to instigate stuff again. And then we also have the side plot where the death girl's like sister is around to trying to cock block him or whatever in the beginning, but then she realizes like, oh, he I guess he is okay and maybe I don't fully know what happened. Um yeah, I mean, I feel like the whole movie is definitely like not giving people a chance, but like things are so nuanced that like one bad thing that someone did doesn't completely define this person's character. I mean, it also depends on the bad thing because I'm like, someone like Diddy, I'm like, oh no, he's just evil. Like that's just evil incarnate. But with the context of him, one being a child, two it being sort of like a crowd mentality and everyone was doing it. I'm like, and he's not doing that anymore. I'm like, yeah, he definitely changed and he grew to even like learn sign language to be able to better communicate with her and stuff like that. So I'm like, it's different. And then what else happened? So then she's also suicidal too because of, the bullying, but more specifically, the girl who was the instigator who hates her or whatever. And honestly, it's like it's not fully touched on, but obviously it's like the girl likes the main character, and so does the deaf girl. And I think that was, I mean, aside from the instigator girl just genuinely not liking her, I think she also just didn't like her because of that fact as well that they both like the same person. But anyway, so the death girl, I'm like, I wish I remembered any of their names. Um, she tries to kill herself during this like holiday because she goes back home while everybody else is about to watch fireworks, and he's like, "Oh, let me." He went to go to their house to get something, and he sees her almost about to jump or whatever, and he saves her. But then what ends up happening is that he ends up falling on accident and not her. And now, of course, the main girl that was the instigator is blaming her and all this stuff. And it's like, no, she already feels terrible. Don't do this and whatnot. But of course, he doesn't die. I mean, I was like, okay, so wait, he went from being suicidal and then he's gonna die accidentally. Like, don't do this. Thankfully he doesn't die. He does wake up. Um, and everybody isn't mad at him or anything because he does confess about bullying her when they were younger and being an outcast and all this stuff. But everybody's like, that's not you anymore. Like the you we know is not the same person that you're describing. So don't worry about it. We're not gonna stop being your friend. And I thought that was really sweet. Um Yeah, and I'm like, it almost got me. Like, I almost cried. I could see myself crying, but I wasn't moved to tears, really. This one didn't get me like that. But it is a good movie. It does have very slow points at times. And I kind of broke it down as like, oh, this is 4 episodes of an anime long, um, to sort of get me through it because I was like, ooh, during the slow parts, it's real slow, like real slow. But yeah, so that was a silent voice. And I think I'm gonna end it there. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. And I will see you next time. Bye.